It's not a big deal, right? Costco has membership fees and all, so it's helpful. Sienna tries to get me to go shopping with her just because she wants to. I couldn't stand her self-serving attitude, always thinking about what's advantageous for her, and I've refused many times. But she keeps insisting that it's fine, and it's becoming pointless to argue. Finally, she tried to set a date for me to go, even though I hadn't agreed to it. Okay, when do you want to do it? Then, my husband came in and gave an even more outrageous response, and I couldn't believe my ears when he said it. Hey, what's going on? That's Sienna, you know. It's obvious we'll end up paying money again. At that time, I intend to retaliate. It seems like Ian has some thoughts regarding Sienna's actions. It seems that he's planning a tremendous payback, but only if Sienna behaves as brazenly as usual. I decided to go along with my husband's plan. My name is Ruby. This year, my child started kindergarten, and I've been busy with their education and getting to know our neighbors. Fortunately, most of the other moms are kind, and they've helped me a lot with various things, from kid-related matters to advice among parents. I think I've managed to build good relationships by helping out wherever I can. Except for one mom friend. Her name is Sienna. She always seems to need help from everyone, including me, and she calls herself a spoiled child. To be honest, she has never really helped me with anything. For example, whenever we make plans to go out for a meal with other mom friends, she often shows up out of nowhere and joins us. I wouldn't mind that so much, but she frequently asks for bites of other people's food, or makes comments like, "I'm a bit short on cash today," clearly hoping someone will cover her meal. Other mom friends who have had similar experiences share my feelings about her. Whenever I go shopping, I always drive, and she often shows up persistently asking for a ride. I wouldn't mind if we were just going to the same place, but Sienna is just so pushy. Oh no, I was in such a rush, I forgot my wallet. What do you want to do? Should we go back and get it? No, that would be too much trouble. Can I pay you back later? Whenever I take her shopping, this always happens. She always has an excuse, like forgetting her wallet or leaving her cards at home. She puts items in my cart, promising to pay me back later, but she never actually pulls out her wallet. Even though she says she'll pay me back later, Sienna almost never does. When I confront her with the receipt, she just keeps making excuses like not having money right now or asking me to wait until payday. Ruby, you're really strict about money, aren't you? Finally, when I went to her house to talk about it, directly with her and her husband, this is what she said. Sienna's husband is a reasonable person, and he always apologizes and pays me back. But Sienna herself doesn't seem to care at all. You might think it's just $20 worth of shopping, but when it happens several times a month, it really adds up. Having to go through all this trouble just to get reimbursed every time we go shopping is really stressful. It would be great if I could avoid her when I go shopping, but Sienna uses her child to manipulate the situation. The kids are friends, and sometimes they promise to go shopping together, and then Sienna asks for my permission afterward. It's hard to say no when the kids are involved, and I can't ask her son not to be friends with mine. Other mom friends sympathize and try to encourage me, but I get the feeling that they also want to avoid dealing with Sienna, so they keep a bit of a distance from me. Hey, could you go shopping instead of me? Huh? Why? That persistent mom friend I told you about. Just tell her no firmly. It's that simple. I couldn't take it anymore, so I asked my husband for advice. But since he doesn't know Sienna's personality, he didn't take it seriously. He told me that the kids' relationships are separate from the parents' relationships, and that I should stand firm. One day, while I was still struggling with what to do, my husband came home looking extremely tired. I thought something had happened at work, but he told me that when he got into the car to go to work, he ran into her. Oh, Ruby's husband. Perfect timing. Can you give me a ride to the station? She apparently spotted our car while waiting at a traffic light and called out to him. Even though she was asking nicely, she didn't expect my husband to refuse. She even came up to the car and tried to open the passenger door. When my husband refused, she started yelling and calling out his name repeatedly, trying to get him to come back. Can't believe she was shouting like that on the street. See, I told you Sienna was a handful. There's a limit to being a handful. She even asked me for train fare afterward. He tried to get away from her, but since it was a route with many traffic lights, he had a hard time shaking her off. After dropping her off, Sienna went to the subway station despite not having enough money for a ticket. I wonder where she planned to go. My husband, realizing the selfishness of Sienna's actions, understood why I needed to talk and looked drained. What's she really thinking? That's why I wanted you to handle the shopping. I'm sure she doesn't care if she's dealing with me, that person. He shook his head and seemed clueless about Sienna's behavior. I was also puzzling over what to do. Then, one day, Sienna broached the subject with me. Hey, Ruby, I want to say Costco. That's right. Want to go with me? It's cheap and cozy. Sienna, do you go there often? No, I'm not a member. I responded vaguely to Sienna's abrupt suggestion. Sienna knew a lot about Costco and suggested things, even though she wasn't a member. Our household knows about Costco because my husband is a member and sometimes uses the car to go there for shopping. However, just because of that, it didn't mean I would take Sienna shopping. I figured Sienna was only interested in my wallet, so I just nodded along casually. Hey, let's go, Ruby. You're a Costco member, right? No, I'm not. What about your husband? Well, that's fine too, but I'd like him to drive us. How do you know that? The other day, your husband gave me a ride. I saw some Costco shopping bags in the car. Hearing Sienna's words, I couldn't help but grimace. You can't pay at Costco without a membership, though. That's why I'll handle the checkout and pay later. You hardly ever pay when you say that. It'll be fine this time, right? Even though I thought she's not serious this time either, Sienna, as usual, talked to my child. Can we go shopping together? She asked, and my son enthusiastically replied, Sure. Then can I have my husband watch the kids? I haven't agreed to go yet. Oh, come on, but it's fine, isn't it? Costco has a membership fee, so it's helpful. She only considers what benefits her, and I couldn't bear it, so I refused several times. Even when I asked her not to make promises using the kids, she insisted it's fine. Eventually, despite not agreeing, she eagerly started planning to go. What are you talking about? Oh, Ruby's husband. We promised to go to Costco together next time. Oh, okay. When should we go? My husband unexpectedly agreed when he came to pick us up, and I couldn't believe my ears. Sienna happily ran to him and quickly arranged to go to Costco the following weekend. After Sienna left, I couldn't help but complain to my husband about his response. Hey, what are you thinking? It's Sienna, remember? I know. But didn't she say she'd bring money this time? That's definitely a lie. She'll definitely make us pay again. I plan to get back at her then. Apparently, Ian had some ideas about Sienna's behavior. I was apprehensive and couldn't help but laugh when I heard my husband's strategy. He seems to be plotting a tremendous payback, but only if Sienna behaves brazenly as usual. Additionally, if Sienna considers staying away from us as a result, I'd see it as a welcome opportunity, so I decided to go along with my husband's plan. Finally, the day to go to Costco arrived. Sienna was in high spirits since morning and naturally hopped into our car, asking if I forgot anything. Do you have your wallet with you? It would be troublesome if you forgot. But aren't you the one who often forgets? It's okay. It's okay. While Sienna's remarks irritated me, my husband responded politely. Normally, I would have wanted to check her wallet right there, but I endured it considering my husband's plan. Sienna seemed to be well aware of Costco's system, knowing that only members with cards could pay. By shopping there, it was inevitable that my husband would end up paying. In that case, she could push the payment onto us as usual, and if she claimed to have forgotten her wallet, she probably thought she wouldn't have to pay like always. Sienna's intentions were clear as day, and it seemed my husband understood that well. As soon as we arrived at the store, Sienna cheerfully put her basket in the cart and hurried off. Wow, they have such a great selection. It's hard to decide. Sienna happily looked around and kept tossing items into the basket. When I suggested separating our baskets to avoid mixing up our stuff, she just adjusted her cart and continued adding items without hesitation. My husband secretly whispered to me that Sienna was putting items in our basket without checking the prices, which made me laugh. It seemed Sienna wasn't thinking about paying this time either, so my husband decided to execute his plan. That was fun. Huh, Ruby, is that all you're getting? Yeah, we still have stuff at home and can come back. Oh, really? Then invite me again next time. Swallowing the words, I didn't invite you this time either. We line up at the cash register at the far end of the line. While my husband took out his wallet, Sienna also opened her bag, which I watched intently. I watched silently as Sienna rummaged through her small bag and, as expected, said, Huh, I'm sorry. It looks like I forgot my wallet. You said you were fine in the car, right? I'm sorry, okay? I know it's bad, but can you spot me one more time? Sienna's basket has way more items than my husband's and mine. It seemed like she was planning to buy about $200 to $300 worth of stuff, but she still didn't seem concerned about the contents of her wallet at all. Since she didn't talk about paying when she got home, it's obvious she doesn't plan to spend any money. I glanced at my husband and nodded. Oh, okay. Oops, sorry. Looks like I got a call from my parents. Saying that, I left my shopping basket with my husband and stepped away from the checkout line. Then, I hid close to the nearby shelves and discreetly watched the two of them. Sienna seemed to be chatting with my husband without any particular concern. Even though you bought a lot, it's a shame you forgot your wallet. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'm lucky to have friends who can cover for me. Oh, right. There was something I forgot to buy. Sorry, but can you wait in line here for me? Well, I guess I have no choice. Just make sure to come back quickly, or I'll be in trouble. While Sienna grumbled, my husband also left the checkout line. Sunday mornings at Costco were particularly crowded, so as soon as Sienna turned towards the checkout, he disappeared into the crowd and became invisible. Well, what should we do now? With such a full basket, we can't really say we're not buying anything, huh? Saying that to each other, we exchanged glances and chuckled from behind the shelves. We walked past the back of the shelves and lined up at the farthest checkout counter from where Sienna was in line. I watched Sienna for a while, and she kept waiting for us in the checkout line, giving a little bit of the line to the person behind her. On crowded Sunday mornings, many people also plan to have lunch here, so especially at this time, it's unlikely she'll spot us waiting far away. We finished paying and left the store ahead of her. We got into the car and waited for a while. I checked my phone to see if it was time to reveal our plan, and there was a message from Sienna. Hey, still waiting. Stop messing around. Don't keep me waiting too long. Even without your wallet, you're still willing to wait in line for so long? Maybe it's time to tell the truth and ask her to come back to the car. Yeah, you're right. It seemed like she was still waiting dutifully, and we couldn't help but laugh. Basically, what was she going to do if she couldn't pay for all that stuff because we didn't have enough money? With that in mind, I told her that we had paid our bill first and were returning to the car, and sure enough, an enraged Sienna called me. Hey, wait a minute. What are you thinking? My shopping isn't finished yet, you know? If you didn't bring your wallet, you couldn't shop in the first place. Come back soon. Don't be unreasonable. Stop joking around and come back quickly to pay. I won't pay. How much do you think you've made me pay for you until now? For a while, no matter what we said, Sienna insisted that since I brought her, I should pay. In the end, she even said she wouldn't go back if I didn't pay, which made my husband more astonished than me. Since she had no intention of going back home, my husband reluctantly started the car. When Sienna asked how she would get home, my husband only replied, "You'll be fine," leaving her bewildered. "If it comes to it, maybe she could force someone into giving her a ride in her car." My husband said that and laughed. It seemed like he's still upset about being forced to give Sienna a ride to the station. I told Sienna that if she didn't contact me and come back soon, I would leave her behind, but she still refused to listen. Leaving her behind might be harsh, but after being pushed this far, I couldn't do anything else. I left the store thinking that somehow she would manage. The next day, it seemed like Sienna managed to come back home by taking the subway by herself. Sienna came by our house, giving my husband a mean look because he was laughing and saying she had her wallet. And then she cursed at us angrily. "I couldn't even shop because of you. It was awful." Basically, isn't it worse not to bring money when you're going shopping? "Just because of that, are you going to leave me stranded? That's awful. You could have paid for me." "How much do you think you've made me pay for you until now?" "You always say stuff like that. Ruby, you're really obsessed with money." She kept selfishly bringing up her own arguments and kept shouting about how I didn't pay for things. She even demanded compensation because she was hurt, making a scene at the front door and causing a nuisance. "What's wrong? Why are you shouting so loudly?" "Oh, Kathy, please listen. Ruby is being really unfair to me." Kathy happened just to pass by. Kathy is a chatty mom friend, and Sienna smiled smugly when she saw her. She probably wanted Kathy to spread rumors about how awful I've been to her, to the neighbors. "Ruby said she'd take me to the store, but left me behind." "Oh, so it's a story about you forcing her to make a promise, isn't it?" "Huh? No, that's not it. Ruby suggested going." "You wouldn't invite someone who always forgets their wallet and just relies on others to treat them, would you?" "Well..." "So you threw a fit trying to get more money out of her, and she left you behind? That's what you get, isn't it?" Sienna's attempt to spread rumors to Kathy backfired when Kathy pointed out the truth, leaving her stunned. I knew that Sienna would tell her about what happened yesterday, so I told Kathy about it beforehand, under the guise of consulting her. On the contrary, Sienna, who was lectured by Kathy, finally left with a red face. Kathy said it must have been a disaster, while encouraging me, and she seemed somewhat amused too. From now on, she will probably talk about what Sienna has done all over the place. After that, Sienna couldn't correct the facts, and thanks to Kathy, her misdeeds spread quickly throughout the neighborhood. Sienna tried to make friends, but it seemed like she was making things worse by spreading gossip herself, so she couldn't get help from anyone. Even more, many people said it was her own fault, and now she's even more distant from the neighborhood than before. "It's all your fault. Everything. All of it." I thought I had gone too far in leaving her behind, but Sienna was still just as resentful of me as ever. After Sienna's husband seemed to give her a scolding too, she began to run away when she saw me. People who were tired of Sienna's behavior started to say, "Well done." I'd like to think this brings things to a close. Her clingy behavior was pushing people away, making it hard for me to connect with anyone else. But now, thanks to what happened, I'm finding it easier to form bonds with others. I'm able to hang out with others, and when we shop, we each pay for our own stuff, which helps us all get along well.
At 45, my ex-husband, who left me due to infertility, announced he was marrying a 20-year-old. When I saw her, I burst into laughter.
"Even though I wanted children, I've been enduring it all because of you. You're defective."
My husband, whom I've been with for 20 years, said words that hurt me deeply. I can't continue with him anymore. He's already lost in thoughts of a new marriage. God must have been watching over me for such devilish deeds. That's why my husband did what he did. My name is Angela. I'm 45 years old. I work as an office clerk at a law firm. It's almost been 20 years since I married my husband. We've lived modestly together. We truly wanted children, but it didn't happen. The problem was mostly on my side. While working, I went through treatments, exhausting both my physical and financial resources, but it didn't work out. When I turned 40, I decided to give up. My husband wanted children until the end and asked me to continue treatments, but I reached my limit. Enduring the pain while only seeing our money decrease, that situation was tough. After all, they say we needed $200,000 for retirement savings. I felt it would be wasteful to pour more money into fertility treatments. Should we stop treatment and live together as a couple? Since we don't have children, let's save money or indulge in a slightly luxurious trip. I suggested it, and my husband, thought with a hesitant expression, agreed. After that, we decided to enjoy life as a couple. Still, when I see photos of children on TV shows or Christmas cards, I feel complex emotions inside. Even now, 5 years after stopping treatment, I still carry feelings of guilt and inadequacy for not being able to have children. One day, I ended up attending a high school reunion after about 10 years. My husband suggested I take it easy sometimes, so I decided to stay overnight near the venue. It felt like a mini vacation. Come to think of it, I've rarely gone out alone since getting married. I was mostly preoccupied with infertility treatments. It's okay to indulge occasionally, right? And when I arrived at the venue, I enjoyed chatting with old friends. Angela, long time no see. How have you been? Have you lost some weight? Certainly, I've lost about 22 pounds in the past 10 years. I'm so jealous. I've gained 33 pounds since getting married and having children. Even in a trivial conversation with my friend, I feel a slight pang in my chest. Angela, what about children? Yeah, it didn't happen. It's just my husband and me. Sorry for asking something weird. Nah, it's fine. Come on, let's enjoy ourselves. I behaved cheerfully to avoid creating a gloomy atmosphere. Speaking of which, the other day my son fell victim to marriage fraud. Huh? Fraud? I widened my eyes at the words of my classmate. Yeah, it was like that. Well, it was attempted fraud. Before getting married, he was asked for money, about $20,000. Huh? What happened then? Since my son couldn't pay $20,000, he came to us, his parents, for advice, and that's how it was discovered. Eventually, the woman disappeared without a trace. That's a scary story. There are some unbelievable women out there. It's truly terrifying. Marriage fraud, huh? I'm a little surprised that something like this could happen so close to home. It seems like her son has now found a new girlfriend, and the parents are relieved. The class reunion proceeded smoothly and soon came to an end. I didn't go to the after party. Instead, I returned to the hotel and enjoyed a drink alone. Come to think of it, I haven't contacted my husband. It's only 10 p.m. He should still be awake. I called home, but no matter how many times I rang the doorbell, my husband didn't answer. Maybe he's already asleep. Well, it's not a problem since I'm going back tomorrow anyway. But I had a strange feeling. Is this what they call a woman's intuition? I had a bad feeling for some reason. Since then, my husband's been coming home extremely late on weekdays, and he started coming home drunk almost every night.
Hey, I'm home.
You! What have you been drinking? Are you okay? My husband was drunk, and as soon as he took off his shoes, he was sprawled out in the living room.
Shut up! Stop nagging. Show more respect.
What is there to respect in such a sloppy outfit? I pick up my husband's discarded socks and shirt while silently making sarcastic remarks in my mind.
Luna was so cute. If only you were as young as Luna.
My husband says such a thing. Who is Luna? What does he mean by, if only you were young? When I tried to question him, my husband was already in deep sleep. Could he possibly be cheating? The feeling of unease I had that day was becoming uncertain. No, my husband is a tough guy. He couldn't possibly do such a thing. It must be just drunken nonsense, right? I kept reassuring myself like that. But my husband keeps going out early in the morning and coming home late at night. Even on weekends.
I'm going out for a bit.
Okay, see you later. And as usual, he comes back drunk every time. Almost every week, it becomes difficult enough for even me to intervene. Lately, it seems like you're going drinking almost every day. Are you okay financially?
Shut up. What I do with my money is none of your business. It's my savings from when I was single.
But you should save at least a little for retirement, shouldn't you?
Why don't you save for it then?
I've already spent quite a bit on fertility treatment.
Well, that's because you were defective, right?
Even though he's drunk, I can't believe he talks like that. I have started to notice my husband's changes little by little. Is it because I have become meaner since I stopped treatment? My husband was making more and more ridiculous comments about me.
Since you can't have kids, you should show me more gratitude in return.
I felt my affection for my husband diminishing as he wasted money and behaved selfishly. He used to praise me and support me during the difficult times of treatment. Will that type of husband ever come back? What even is a marriage? 20 years have passed, and I'm starting to think about these things. But then, things suddenly started to change.
Angela, we need to talk.
When I return from work, my husband is sitting on the living room sofa with a serious expression. What? This sounds serious.
I want a divorce.
What? Are you kidding me? Why all of a sudden? I never even dreamed that my husband was considering divorce. While I did think we needed to reconsider things as a couple, I never thought about divorce. But did my husband think about divorce before I did? Why divorce all of a sudden? I asked my husband for the reason. We've been married for 20 years, haven't we? Let's talk things through properly. But my husband has been looking at me with disdain.
You really are clueless, aren't you?
With a heavy sigh, my husband glares at me. Huh? What do you mean?
Look, I've wanted kids for the past 20 years, but I ended up with someone like you, a defective product. I've been robbed of the opportunity to be a parent. Have you ever considered my feelings?
He says all this while tapping the table condescendingly. But when we decided to stop the treatment, we talked about it together.
I wasn't convinced at all. I've been wanting kids all along.
Why didn't you tell me that then? I felt so sad and frustrated that tears were about to overflow.
Well, if you divorce me, I won't say anything more. Quietly sign the divorce papers for me.
Saying so, my husband hands me the divorce papers on the table.
I've actually already decided to move on with my life.
Move on? You mean remarry?
Yeah, with a 20-year-old girlfriend.
Girlfriend? What do you mean? Are you cheating?
There's no way I'd do something like that. We're already planning to register our marriage right after we divorce.
He says so proudly. A 20-year-old girl marrying my husband? It's unthinkable.
Luna is kind, cute, and the ideal wife. Unlike you.
Luna, the name my husband mentioned that day. My woman's intuition is not to be underestimated. I admired myself a little bit, but this is no time for self-admiration. And then, my husband shows me a photo of his cute Luna. Looking at it closely, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Is this a joke? I can't believe something like this is happening.
What's so funny?
My husband notices my change, but I quickly regain my composure. I felt it was too early to reveal the truth, so I immediately put on a solemn expression.
Yeah, so you really want kids, huh? Well, you can't have any, can you? There's no helping that, right? You'll divorce me, won't you?
Yeah, I guess there's no other choice. I put on a slightly exaggerated sad expression. When he brought up divorce, I was indeed saddened. But considering my husband's stupidity, divorcing him immediately seemed like the right thing to do. Yeah, it's probably better to break up with someone like him sooner rather than later. I felt like even God was telling me the same thing, so I signed the divorce papers and left my husband. He'll probably regret it soon enough. Well, I'll just watch over him for a little while. And about a year after the divorce...
Angela, help me.
A disheveled man approached me as I was returning from work. Who are you? I was genuinely perplexed as I didn't recognize him.
It's me, Angela. I need your help.
It was my ex-husband. He was technically a stranger now, but he was still my ex. long time no see. I couldn't hide my surprise at my ex-husband's transformation. He looked disheveled and unkempt.
Please, can you introduce me to your company lawyer?
What? I can't just do that on short notice. Apparently, my ex was in financial trouble, I heard. I had imagined it to some extent from his appearance, but I never expected him to change so drastically in just 1 year. Well, the first consultation is free, but...
Free?
But if you hire the lawyer, there will be legal fees.
I don't have that kind of money. Please, help me.
What on earth happened? I reluctantly decided to listen to my ex-husband's story at a nearby cafe.
Actually...
Before my ex-husband could speak, I said, "Did that woman, Luna, ditch you?"
How did you know?
As expected. When my ex showed me a photo of the woman he didn't want me to know about, it clicked. The woman in the photo looked exactly like the woman who had cheated a classmate's son at a school reunion. During the reunion, that classmate was showing the photo of that woman to various people, saying, "I can't forgive this woman." I remember her saying the name was something like Amy, and she was about 20 years old. Well, most likely even the name was fake. Of course. The one deceiving wouldn't use their real name, right?
How do you know about Luna?
Well, I kinda knew. So, what happened? When I asked for more details from my husband, here's what he said. It seems he met a girl named Luna at a gentleman's club about a year ago. As my husband desired children, he kept mentioning it in their conversations. Then, according to him, "If it's me, I can give birth to a child for you." She offered to help him with that. And gradually their relationship deepened. During weekdays, my husband frequented the club, and on weekends, they went on dates outside and then returned to the club. He ended up spending $10,000 from his savings from his single days.
However, Luna is kind and doesn't demand expensive things even during dates outside the club or when she's drinking at the club. She's not like the notorious girls you often hear about. She says she doesn't need luxury brands or jewelry, just drinks at the club are enough. She was a hard-working and honest girl.
We never touched each other's savings from our single days, so I didn't notice anything at all. Well, it's his money, so I thought he could spend it however he liked. But to spend such a large amount. And finally, Luna showed her true colors.
She wants to get married, but she has debts. So she needs to repay them. It's about $20,000.
Then my husband promised to pay off her so-called debts and transfer the money. Although they started living together immediately after our divorce, Luna was doing night work. She rarely came home. And then she quit her job and disappeared. Of course, she ran off with the money. How foolish can one be? I feel so ashamed that I've been married to someone like this for 20 years. But what about the loan agreement?
Loan agreement?
When I asked, my husband looked puzzled. You lent her money, right? Didn't you?
We're married, so there's no need for that.
Huh? So does that mean you gave her the money?
Is that so?
In this case, it means you generously gave Luna $20,000. This woman must be quite cunning. If the gift exceeds $17,000 per year, a gift tax is applied. Depending on the circumstances, the received item may be subject to taxation, so Luna disappeared after receiving only $20,000 in cash, not other things. And it was split into 2 payments over the span of a year. That way, it wouldn't exceed the $17,000 annual limit, so no tax would be incurred. My husband thought she was just a good girl who never asked for expensive things because she was good-natured, but she must have been knowledgeable about the law.
So what should I do?
Maybe you should consult a lawyer? Well, it will cost money to hire one, though. When I said that, my husband sighed deeply.
I've used up all my savings for my single days, and my beloved left me. I can't say I'm dead broke after already telling my company about getting remarried. I even bragged about getting a young wife.
It's just desserts, isn't it? That's what I thought, but I didn't say anything to my husband, who looked so pitiful.
Angela, it's my fault. Please, come back. I realized it after you were gone. You were the only one who cared about me. I don't need children anymore, and I'll let you do what you want. You must have been lonely too, right?
Does my husband still think I love him? Our relationship ended in my heart 6 months ago. So, I confronted reality. Why are you bringing this up a year later? Isn't it too late for regrets now?
Are you going to abandon me, Angela?
Didn't you initiate the breakup in the first place?
Angela, you're the only one I can rely on.
My husband seemed utterly exhausted. I decided to extend my hand to him just a little. Oh well, shall I call a friend who's a lawyer?
Angela, thank you. You still care about me after all.
My husband was moved to tears. And then we went to a cafe where my company's lawyer, Samuel, was waiting.
Angela, over here. Angela, who's this?
Oh, I know him. He seems to be in a bit of trouble.
Is that so? Nice to meet you, I'm Samuel.
My ex-husband seemed suspicious of our unexpectedly close relationship. We've been seeing each other for 6 months now. By the way, what was the consultation about? When I said that, my ex-husband seemed completely bewildered.
I think I'll leave it here for today.
With a start, my husband snapped out of it and fled as if running away. In the end, my husband had no money to ask the lawyer for help and ended up crying himself to sleep. Rumors are circulating at his company that he's a pitiful person who was abandoned by his partner and ignored by his ex-wife without even having the money to seek legal advice. The world is truly small. I never imagined that someone from my husband's company would be at that cafe, listening to our conversation from start to finish. I heard through the grapevine that he's desperately looking for a new partner because he's afraid of spending his old age alone.
Who was that person?
Later, Samuel asked me about it, and I told him everything. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. The truth is...
Oh, I see. Angela, you've been through a lot.
Me telling Samuel that I was dating him was a blatant lie. I asked for a favor and had him play along. I'm sorry for everything.
It's okay. I'm glad I could help. Do you have plans after this?
Huh?
If you're okay with it, how about having a meal together?
I couldn't have imagined such a turn of events, and I found myself flustered. Starting over in my mid-40s. Not a bad beginning at all. Yes, I'd love to. I felt like an exciting future was waiting for us. I couldn't shake that feeling.
I caught my husband flirting in the shower. Daughter locked them in, saying, "Surprise." I invited grandparents. Husband and mistress panicked.
I've got a birthday surprise for you. I invited Grandpa and Grandma.
You did what?
My husband's surprise was evident, as he was told that from our innocent daughter. The sound of a scream echoed in the bathroom where he'd been having an affair. You've been having a good time while I was away, haven't you? Well, let's have the real surprise now. My name is Ruby. I'm a 32-year-old working mother with a 4-year-old daughter and a husband who works in an office. We've been married for 8 years, but our relationship has been cold lately. I have a woman's intuition that he's cheating. The first hint was when our daughter Laura turned 3. He always made it home for her birthday, but that year he worked on a weekend.
Sorry, I have to go in for an urgent job.
And with that, he left. He said he could wear casual clothes, which was suspicious enough. But he was dressed too nicely for just work. It was super suspicious. We had planned to go to the zoo, and Laura was looking forward to it, so we went without him. He finally came home just after midnight, with Laura already asleep, and her birthday over. If it was just work, I could forgive him, but he reeked of women's perfume, and was obviously drunk. It was a dead giveaway. Even though he normally doted on Laura and never helped around the house, I decided to tolerate it for her sake, thinking it was just a fling. But that was a mistake. He seemed to have taken it seriously. His business trips and late nights increased, something that never happened before. He even started claiming he was staying overnight at the office. Our conversations dwindled. What hurt most was how he became cold to Laura. He used to dote on her, but suddenly he stopped paying attention to her.
Daddy, can we go to the park?
And before he'd say,
Sure, let's go.
But now he'd say,
"Sorry, Laura. Daddy is tired from work."
and then lie on the couch, grinning at his phone. I could bear it if he still cared for Laura, but since he didn't, it might be time to end this. Luckily, I have a job that could go full-time. Raising a child alone would be hard, but having a husband who might as well not be there wouldn't be much different. One day, I thought about my father-in-law. He's a stickler for rules and despises dishonesty. He'd even pick up litter and lecture the person who dropped it. Most people would back down when they saw him because he's still built from his rugby days and works out regularly. Like others of his kind, my father-in-law also wears tight shirts. Exposing my husband at his parents' house seemed like a good plan. His father would definitely straighten him out. Just thinking about it made me excited. How does such a serious man raise a son who cheats? Timing is everything. Christmas would be awkward. And so I began thinking about divorce. Then, a small incident occurred. Laura, about to turn 5, seemed excited. She asked,
Mom, can we go somewhere for my birthday this year?
My husband had missed her birthdays at 3 and 4. This year, her birthday fell on a weekday, making it hard to go out that day. But we had weekends. Maybe we can go out the Sunday before. On your birthday, Daddy and I will be at work, and you'll be at daycare.
I'll ask Daddy.
Despite his coldness, she still loved him, which made my heart ache. She asked him when he surprisingly came home early, and he said,
"Sure, let's go to the aquarium."
Watching her delight made me uneasy, and my fears came true. Jason later said,
"Sorry, Laura. Something came up at work. Go to the aquarium with Mommy."
Really? You can't come?
"Daddy's busy."
She looked tearful, but he left without caring, off to another date, no doubt. That was it for me. I hugged Laura and firmly decided on divorce. About a month after her birthday, something even worse happened. I went to pick up Laura from daycare, but they said her father had already taken her. He did?
"He said you had an urgent matter."
Had we been divorced, they would have checked with me, but as we're still married, they didn't. I rushed out and tried calling him, but he didn't answer. An hour later, he texted.
"We're just at a cafe."
That was it. He came home just as I finished dinner. Why did you take her without telling me?
"Why not? She enjoyed it."
He didn't even feel guilty. He went to change clothes, leaving me to ask Laura. Were you surprised when Daddy picked you up without telling me? Are you okay, sweetie? Laura nodded and said,
We had parfaits. It was delicious.
I felt a bit relieved, thinking maybe he felt some guilt. If he could be a good dad again, maybe. But then she said something that shocked me.
Daddy had coffee and the lady had a cake.
A lady? Who is she?
Oh, I don't know her.
A bad feeling hit me. I showed Laura a picture and asked, Was it her? Laura immediately answered,
Yes, her.
I held my head. Oh, that jerk. He had taken our daughter to meet his mistress. I gritted my teeth, and Laura said,
Daddy said it was a surprise.
A surprise?
Yeah, he said she'll play with me a lot from now on.
What the? Maybe my husband is thinking about divorce too. But does he really plan to take our daughter with him? Ugh, no way. I won't let that happen. I decided to move forward with a divorce quickly. Looking around the room, I noticed he wasn't there and heard the shower running. I quickly packed my things and called my parents. I left the house with my daughter, leaving evidence of his affair on the dining table. My parents were worried when we arrived, and when I explained everything, they were furious with my husband. Their support was a huge relief. Fortunately, Laura could still attend daycare from their house. I informed the daycare about the divorce proceedings to prevent any sudden pickups and told my workplace that I wanted to become a full-time employee after the divorce. I needed to find a new place to live once my income stabilized. For the sake of my new life, my busy days have begun. Days passed without any contact from my husband. He must have seen the photos and known we had left. Ugh, what a jerk. My mind was set on divorce when Laura suddenly said,
Daddy's birthday is coming up.
I had completely forgotten about it. Just then, an idea struck me. How about we celebrate Daddy's birthday?
Yeah.
She nodded. Despite everything, she missed him. I felt guilty inside. I'm a bad mother. On his birthday, I took Laura to the house. I quietly unlocked the door and peeked inside, even though it was our home. I nodded at the sight of the shoes and entered. Where could he be? I tiptoed through the hallway, telling Laura to be quiet for the surprise. Then, I heard voices. Of course, he's doing this while we're not around. The voices were coming from the bathroom. It was clear there were 2 people in there. The man's voice, undoubtedly my husband's, and the woman's voice, unfamiliar but easy to guess. And their voices sound, well, like they were having fun inside.
Daddy's taking a shower?
Seems like it. This wasn't good for her to see. Just as I was about to send her to the living room, she shouted,
Daddy, we're here!
I gasped. Laura, no!
Daddy, Mommy's here too!
She continued. Oh, kids. Nothing beats their innocent, natural actions. She kept calling, oblivious to my panic. My husband and the woman must have heard her.
Laura? Is Ruby there too?
My husband called out, panicked.
No way! You said they wouldn't be back!
The woman shouted.
Quiet! Stop making noise!
He hissed at her, but it was too late. I already had the video.
Daddy?
Laura, don't open the door.
My husband pleaded. She innocently tried to open the bathroom door, but he blocked it. I had an idea. Laura, it seems Daddy doesn't want to come out. We should make sure the door stays closed, right?
You mean lock him in?
Yes, let's give him his birthday wish and lock them in. I smiled.
Yeah, let's do it!
Laura cheered, raising her fist. Prepare yourself, you stupid husband. I shoved the washing machine in front of the door. It was heavy, but I had an adrenaline rush. The door wouldn't budge now. I also blocked the hallway door. I put a small child's dresser in front of it. An adult dresser would have been too heavy. It wasn't much, but it would slow him down.
Laura? What are you doing? Ruby, what are you doing?
My husband's muffled voice came from the bathroom. What do you think? You don't want to come out, right?
Of course I do.
He shouted. Laura was still smiling. Then the front door opened, and I smiled at the new arrival. My husband continued.
Laura, be a good girl and move the things. Daddy's stuck.
Mommy said it's a surprise for you, Daddy.
A surprise?
Yeah. You brought me a surprise for my birthday, so I have something for you too.
And what is that surprise, sweetie?
Well, you brought a lady for my birthday, so I brought someone too,
she said, glancing at the person behind us.
Oh, okay. Who is it, sweetie?
My surprise to you is this. I brought Grandpa and Grandma for your birthday.
You did what?
He shouted from the bathroom.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Laura, wait.
No way! Your parents are here? Please tell me she's joking.
The woman screamed. Keep your voices down, guys. Father-in-law's voice boomed.
What do you think you're doing?
I suddenly heard a deep voice. It was raspy but full of energy and anger despite his age. My husband fell silent immediately.
I said, "What are you doing, you idiot son?"
His father roared.
Dad.
My husband whimpered. My father-in-law, still muscular and imposing, was there. Perfect timing. I had called them with Laura's help. They were furious but willing to help, especially when it was a request from their dear granddaughter. This was going to be a showdown. Before I moved to my parents' house, I had hired a detective to investigate my husband's activities. We had clear photos of him entering a hotel with his mistress. That's why I could show our daughter the photo. You let your mistress live here?
You left, so...
And you moved another woman in? His excuse infuriated me. I knew they rarely left the house since she moved in, and it was laughable how perfect the timing was for them to be in the shower together. As I smiled in victory, I heard a loud rumble behind me. I turned to see my father-in-law standing there, fuming with rage. He was incredibly angry. I stepped aside from the door. My muscular father-in-law easily moved the small dresser and stood before the door, throwing it open with a bang.
Get out here, you fool! Ugh!
My husband screamed, and so did I. Why? Because he stood there naked. He must have pushed the washing machine aside and gotten out, but still naked. He grabbed a towel to cover himself.
Why aren't you dressed?
His father shouted.
My clothes are gone.
My husband whined. Of course I knew. There was only a towel outside the bathroom. It's easy to guess why, but it's an adult matter, not for a child's ears. I handed the woman towels and clothes, and they headed to the living room, still arguing. They both sat in front of me with their heads down. Laura was taken to the park by her grandmother. So, let's hear it. How long has this been going on? The detective had evidence of the affair, but not how it started or how long it had been going on. My husband, sweating, muttered.
I don't remember.
Suddenly there was a loud bang. It was his father slamming the table.
Speak up!
Oh, scary. Can 2 words be that intimidating? I was glad I called my father-in-law.
2 years ago, we started working on a project together and it grew from there.
He admitted. I started suspecting my husband 2 years ago on our daughter's birthday. This seemed true enough. Why did you introduce her to Laura? He stayed silent, and so did she. I glanced at her, but she kept her head down. I looked back at my husband and was startled to see my father-in-law standing beside him. He was just on the sofa next to him. Wow, ninja move.
Speak up!
Gosh, he's so intimidating. He's glaring up at my husband who's looking down. It's like a scene from a comic book or something. His bald head made him look even more intimidating. He wasn't bald because he shaved his head. It just happened. Plus, he's huge and muscular, making my less muscular husband look weak.
I thought she might become Laura's mother, so I wanted them to get along.
He cheerfully said under his father's pressure. That will never happen. Laura stays with me.
You'll take her from the father she loves?
What? From the father who ignores her? Shut up. I snapped, influenced by my father-in-law's anger. I took a deep breath and said, Divorce is final. I'll take Laura. You'll pay alimony and child support in a lump sum.
It's your fault for being unattractive. I'll never pay all that,
he retorted. But my father-in-law grabbed his mouth.
Don't you dare speak to her like that, you piece of shit!
My husband whimpered. His father's muscular hand was pulling at my husband's mouth. Yeah, keep going. I felt a bit of satisfaction watching my husband get his comeuppance while I looked at the still silent woman. You'll also pay alimony.
Why should I?
You knew he was married. You worked together. There's no way you didn't know. There are family photos everywhere, too. Don't lie.
I can't afford it.
Then your salary will be garnished.
You can't do that.
You ruined a family. Don't think you'll get away with it. Finally realizing her position, the woman turned pale. Behind me, my father-in-law continued berating my husband.
I'm sorry. I'll value my family, so please stop. I'll straighten you out, you idiot.
A wrestling match ensued. Dad, please don't break anything. We have to sell this house, I called. I divorced my husband and got the alimony and child support in a lump sum. Since he had squandered money, his parents covered the alimony and child support.
Ruby, we're sorry for our idiot son.
They apologized. That was enough. I held no grudge against them. Just be the grandparents Laura loves, I said, and they teared up. The mistress also paid her alimony with her parents' help and left her job, moving back home. Her parents farmed in the countryside, a life she had fled from before. Now she worked there to repay the money, complaining about the smelly manure. I didn't care about her anymore as long as she stayed out of my life. My ex-husband also returned to his parents' home. I wondered how he would repay his parents without keeping his job, but word got out at his company. He was shunned, especially by the women, and ended up quitting. Both of them being involved in the affair disrupted the workplace and their salaries were reduced. The atmosphere became so hostile that he left. What a wuss. How will he repay his parents? Like his mistress, he ended up working for his parents. My muscular father-in-law is known for his hard physical labor. I doubted my wimpy ex-husband could handle it. According to my former mother-in-law who visited us, he was collapsing under the strain both at work and at home, supervised by his tough father. I wondered if he was okay, but after a while he disappeared. His father was furious, but I felt relieved knowing I'd never have to see him again. Laura is thriving, growing up healthy and happy. I had aimed to give her double the love to make up for her father's absence, but with 4 doting grandparents, she is always joyful. She quickly adjusted to life without her father. He had always been a shadow anyway. I became a full-time employee juggling work, housework, and parenting. But thanks to Laura's constant smiles, I'm always full of energy.
My husband bought a new house and said, "My parents are moving in." They added, "Obey or leave." I replied, "I think there's a misunderstanding."
Buying a home is a major life event. Right after reaching this pinnacle of happiness, my marriage began to fall apart. I'm Anna, 30 years old. My husband, John, is 35, and we have a 3-year-old daughter, Sarah. We finally got to buy our dream home. When I tell people this, they usually respond with something like, "Wow, that sounds perfect. You must be so happy." Normally, that would be true, but not in my case. Lately, I've been stressed out by the new house we're building and our mother-in-law, Maria. The first step towards our relationship's breakdown happened when we left our daughter at my in-laws' house. Both my husband and I work full-time and barely have any free time during the week. We mostly went house hunting and discussed design plans on weekends. Bringing Sarah along was tricky because she'd get bored and fussy, so we usually left her with my parents who live nearby. But one morning, my father was sick and had to go to the hospital, so they couldn't take care of Sarah. I thought we'd have to cancel our plans for the day, but then my husband suggested,
Why don't we leave her with my parents?
To be honest, I don't get along well with my in-laws. They believe there's no need to be considerate of their son's wife, and that they can say whatever they want to me since I'm just their daughter-in-law. What era are they living in? Besides, I felt uneasy about asking them to take care of a 3-year-old on such short notice. But if we postponed our plans, it would delay the house's completion. After much deliberation, I reluctantly decided to leave Sarah with them just for that day. Once our errands were done, we bought some fancy sweets as a thank you gift and headed straight to my in-laws' house. By the time we arrived in the evening, my in-laws were in a good mood, likely because of the gift. After thanking them and heading home, Sarah asked, "Mommy, where's Grandpa and Grandma's room in the new house?" I was taken aback. Sweetie, what are you talking about? Did Grandpa and Grandma ask you that? What did you say?
I said I didn't know,
she replied, then resumed talking to her stuffed penguin. Maybe they were wondering if they would have a room to stay in when they visit, I thought. From then on, my in-laws started visiting often during the evenings and holidays when we were home. Currently, we live in a small, old, rented apartment to save money for the house. Whenever my in-laws visit, they make themselves comfortable and demand to see the house plans. Before I can stop him, John eagerly shows them the plans and starts explaining everything. Why does he have to show them everything? It's bad enough they come over so often. After that, my mother-in-law always bombards me with questions. It's like a congressional hearing. And it's not John who has to answer, it's me. I can almost hear a chairman call my mother-in-law.
Maria, your turn to speak.
This kitchen layout is impractical. Change it. The living room is too small. Make it bigger. As people age, they need larger spaces to feel comfortable. And one kid's room isn't enough if you have another child. What are your thoughts on the declining birth rate?
Okay, that last one is a joke. She hasn't grilled me on birth rates yet. Now it's my turn to speak.
Anna?
We discussed this with the contractors and made decisions together. The foundation is already laid, so we can't change the layout now. Please understand. I said this rather irritably. Then she starts asking about furniture and appliances, digging for every detail. My mother-in-law claims to be a home professional.
I visit many friends' homes and study their rooms. With my trained eye, I can easily tell what's cozy and stylish. Ugh, this room is all wrong. It'll drive away good luck and make work difficult. Just terrible.
Yeah, right. She's no expert, just a meddler. I got so fed up that I joked. Why don't we make it a two-family house and split the cost? My in-laws were furious.
Are you saying we should pay? How ungrateful.
I hate the idea of living separately like strangers.
That day, they left in a huff. Yeah, go ahead and leave. You aren't my parents anyway, and I don't owe you any respect. You're just a burden. That night, after putting Sarah to bed, John angrily confronted me.
My parents were just trying to help. Don't be so cold.
I'm not being cold. But your parents are really rude, always interfering with our plans and acting superior just because I'm their daughter-in-law.
That's normal for parents. You're disrespectful. Think about how others feel for once. Cool off and reflect.
He turned away and refused to talk anymore. Sure, they're your parents, but we're a separate family. Besides, they haven't helped us financially at all. They just give orders without contributing, which is incredibly rude. I couldn't calm down and spent the night fuming over the unfairness. Eventually, the house was finished. We were excited to move in, but just after we settled, John dropped a bombshell.
Starting today, my parents are moving in with us. Dad will take the bigger room upstairs, and Mom will take the smaller one.
Hold on a second. What are you talking about? We agreed the upstairs rooms would be for Sarah. I never heard about them moving in. Besides, your parents might complain about the rooms like they usually do.
They won't complain. They've already seen the rooms, so there's nothing to worry about.
When did they see the rooms?
Day before we had our walkthrough.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me your parents saw this house before we did?
Yeah. They wanted to see it, so I gave them the keys. It's not a big deal. It's not like it hurts anything.
John, acting as if the discussion was over, returned to the task of setting up the TV. Not a big deal? I thought. It is now. I was so angry that I left the kitchen unpacking unfinished and went upstairs. I locked the door and tried to calm down my chaotic thoughts. I was genuinely thankful that Sarah was at daycare, allowing me to think things through alone. This sudden announcement about living together made me lose all respect for both John and his parents. I didn't want to be around them for another second. But we had just bought this house, a significant investment. I needed to stay calm and composed, think about what to say and what not to say for the sake of Sarah's and my future. I stayed in the room, gathering my thoughts, waiting for John's parents to arrive. As John said, his parents arrived in the early afternoon with a truckload of their belongings.
Sheesh, at least greet us. Ugh, no matters whatsoever.
Oh, it's still a mess here. How slow can she be?
Maria added, and then she just marched into our new home as if it were her right. Listening from upstairs, I eventually walked out to the entrance. Maria and Sean, I wasn't informed about you moving in, I said, my voice colder than I expected. Sean quickly shot back.
We told John, so there shouldn't be any issue.
Yes, there is an issue. I only found out about your intentions this morning, and I have no plans to live with you two. You're so disrespectful.
Excuse me? John said it's fine. You think you, a mere daughter-in-law, can defy your husband?
Absolutely,
Maria chimed in.
If you don't like it, why don't you just leave, Anna?
It was hopeless. I'd known for a long time that we were too different to communicate. As I struggled to respond, John came rushing over, alarmed.
What the hell are you doing, Anna? Don't fight with my parents.
Fight? This isn't a fight. I'm just being insulted because I'm their daughter-in-law. And now you're blaming me too. You're all the same. John, I can't live with your parents.
Come on, don't make this difficult. You're my wife, so you should follow what I say.
I'm a person before I'm your wife. Do you think you can just force me to obey? Listening to our argument, Sean yelled.
We don't need a wife like that in this family.
John surprisingly agreed.
Maybe it's best if we divorce. I can't have a wife who doesn't respect my parents.
Finally, I had what I wanted. Fine, let's get a divorce, I said clearly. John and I exchanged words of divorce, and I hoped my phone in my pocket recorded everything. We will be strangers now, so you need to return the $790,000 I lent you for the house, I demanded. Sean gasped in shock, and John turned pale. I calmly explained to his confused parents. Your son didn't contribute a single cent to the house. It was built entirely with my savings because he's financially irresponsible. We agreed to share living expenses equally and save what's left in our accounts. But he spent his money recklessly and didn't save anything. I continued.
Anna, you don't have to go that far.
Every word is true. And when it was time to buy the house, you insisted it be in your name. That's why I lent you the money. I have a promissory note, so there's no denying it. I replied firmly.
That's not...
Leaving my stunned husband and in-laws behind, I quickly packed my valuables, clothes, and Sarah's favorite toys into a suitcase and duffel bag. I took Sarah's beloved penguin plushie and loaded everything into my car, then drove off. I said goodbye to the new house that had been ours for such a short time. I picked up Sarah from daycare and headed to my parents' house. They were surprised to see me arrive with so much luggage out of the blue. It's so sudden and I don't want to impose. I could always stay at a hotel, I said hesitantly. My parents quickly stopped me. Later, I found out that they were worried I might be thinking about ending our lives. Actually, it was the opposite. I had vowed to protect her no matter what. I explained everything to my parents. I told them I wanted to divorce my good-for-nothing husband and that I was determined to get custody of my daughter. They promised to support me completely and offered to let us stay with them for a while. This was a huge relief for me since I was working. That night, I documented everything that had happened with my husband and in-laws. I saved the audio recordings of our conversations on my phone to my computer and external media. Armed with this, I spent my vacation days and weekends visiting various law offices until I found a trustworthy lawyer and officially hired them. A week quickly passed since I left the new house. After work one day, I found someone waiting for me. It was my husband. I would say ex-husband, but we were still legally married as the paperwork hadn't been filed yet. I didn't want to talk to him, but I was afraid he might do something rash, so I suggested we go to a more public place like a coffee shop. I made sure to turn on the recording function on my phone just in case. I tried to stay calm and asked, "Do you have something to say?"
About the house. You can have it. I'll change the name on the deed. Just forgive the debt, okay?
"I'm sorry, but I can't live in that house anymore. Your parents were there before us."
Who cares about that detail?
"It matters to me, so it's not possible," I said firmly, taking a sip of my coffee and studying my soon-to-be ex-husband. His hair was disheveled, he had a scruffy beard, and he looked unhealthy. His suit was wrinkled, and his shirt hadn't seen an iron or a dry cleaner in a while. I couldn't help but think how worn out he seemed.
Please, Anna, I can't repay that huge amount of money so easily,
he pleaded. "You knew it was a lot when you borrowed it. I even suggested we both be on the deed or just me, but you insisted it be yours," I reminded him.
I thought I should be the head of the house. And the divorce, I didn't mean it. Why did you take it seriously?
"I meant it. I'm done. The divorce is happening. It's not just your incompetence. Your parents are insufferable," I said, determined. "Sarah is waiting for me. If we're done here, I'm leaving," I said, standing up.
Wait, I'm taking her,
John demanded. His words worried me. Back at my parents' house, I asked them to make sure Sarah was never taken by force. A few days later, the daycare called to say that someone resembling my in-laws was there. I left work early and rushed to the daycare. Thankfully, they had kept Sarah away, and my in-laws were waiting in a separate room. As soon as I entered the room, my mother-in-law started yelling.
"Give us back our granddaughter, you greedy thief!"
What do you mean? "I haven't stolen anything."
If not a thief, then a fraud. You must have done something shady to get that money. There's no way you had that much money at your age.
No, every cent I lent John was mine. I got it honestly from my savings and gifts from my parents and grandmother, I explained.
"Gifts?"
"Yes. They gave me the maximum amount each year without incurring gift tax. Plus, I sold stocks and saved diligently. It all adds up."
"I can't believe it was really your money."
"You didn't gift John anything? You can start now," I suggested, knowing their financial situation. Sean groaned and fell silent. Maria, who loved luxury, never thought about saving or gifts. "I knew this. I'm divorcing your son and taking custody of my daughter. Please, don't come to the daycare anymore," I said, taking Sarah and leaving. Despite my warning, John and his parents came a few more times. Each time, I calmly tried to turn them away, but sometimes they grabbed me or hurled insults. I recorded everything on my phone. About a month after I left the new house, I sent a letter through my lawyer demanding repayment of the loan and agreeing to the divorce. John mostly agreed, but wanted to fight for custody. However, when I mentioned alimony, he quieted down. With my evidence and their lack of savings, it took some time, but I got the money back and full custody of Sarah. It took longer than expected for John to repay the loan, because selling the new house was difficult. I thought John and his parents would live in the new house, but they couldn't afford the $790,000. John had no savings, and even selling their old house wasn't enough. Eventually, they sold the new house for less than they paid and had to lower the price multiple times before finding a buyer. John took out a loan to cover the difference. Now, he lives in his parents' rundown house with them and his sister, who moved back with her 2 sons after her divorce. The house is crowded, and their constant arguing is infamous in the neighborhood. They no longer bother us, Probably because they can't afford child support and are too ashamed. 4 years later, Sarah is now in 2nd grade. We live near my parents, who help us a lot. I thought it might be fine to stay single and just raise my daughter on my own, but now I'm actually seeing someone. He's a 36-year-old man with a 1st-grade daughter and a history of divorce. We met at daycare, started talking, and he eventually confessed his feelings. Now our daughters play together, and we go out as a family. Recently, Sarah said,
If we get a new house again, we should all have our own rooms, and we should get a dog.
Her words made my heart skip a beat. That man had proposed to me a while back. I asked him to wait because of our daughters, but my mind is made up. I hugged Sarah and said, Yes, sweetie, let's get a new house again. This time, we'll make sure everyone is happy.